Hi all and welcome back to a new video as we move on to day 3 of the Cheltenham Festival 2020 previews. The first 2 days videos which were uploaded last week have been brilliantly received. Can't thank you guys enough for all the likes, the comments, the new subscribers. If you are new around here, welcome, and I hope you guys do enjoy the videos you've seen and continue to enjoy the videos you might see in the future. We've passed 1,000 subscribers, which is a brilliant feat. I never thought it would happen, to be honest. There was a fair few videos out there that I put up a few years ago that not many people watched, and I can see why. You know, it's hard to gain that audience, but now that a lot of you guys have decided to subscribe, I'm very glad you have. And hopefully we can go and back some winners and discuss horse racing going forward for the next while, you know, for the foreseeable future. But you didn't want to come here for me to be giving you these emotional talks. You wanted Cheltenham preview analysis. And we move on to day 3, which is the Thursday. I must confess the Thursday hasn't been a brilliant day for me in the past few years. The last good Thursday I had, I think, was 2017. I had a brilliant Thursday that year with the Mullins quartet. I backed them all, I think. Sorry, what was it? It was York Hill, it was Undersow, it was Nichols Canyon and Let's Dance. I had York Hill, Undersow and Let's Dance in a treble. It was a brilliant day, but the last few years have been tricky, especially last year, because I wasn't with Defi de Sceaux, I wasn't with Sire de Burley. It became tricky. I wasn't with Frodon. I think I only had Sira de Lac last year on the Thursday. But hopefully we can go and bang a couple of winners in this year. Starting off with the Marsh Novices Chase, which will be one of the 4 races I'll be covering in this episode. The handicap video will be coming out after this when I've got more time to look at the handicap weights when they do come out and the entries and see where everything's kind of going. The Marsh Novices Chase, this again relies a bit on what I was talking about in the RSA. In the RSA I told you that really whichever one between Allaho and Faugheen runs I would back. Now whoever doesn't run in that will run in this. And the same comments apply for me. I think whichever one runs in this I will back. I think the more likely one to run in this is Allaho. He's 5 to 1. Still best price going around, and I think he's not a bad price at 5 to 1. I can see why, because he had good form in the book last year. He was 3rd in the Albert Bartlett, despite being a very inexperienced horse, which is really, he was booking a lot of trends to run so well in a race of that nature. He then backed that up when finishing 2nd again to Manila Indo at Punchestown in the Grade 1 Novice Hurdle there. Carefully Selected was behind him that day in 3rd. He came out then over Christmas, and he was one of the many Mullins horses I backed over Christmas that was unfortunately no good to me, because he ran well. He travelled very nicely throughout the whole race. He jumped well from the front and then just blew up at the back the last, very similar to Chacun Pour Soi. And Easy Game got him on the run-in. Now, Easy Game had a run over hurdles beforehand, so perhaps had that little bit more kind of improvement to come from that. And Easy Game has backed the form up by finishing so close to Faugheen in the Flogas Novices Chase. So there's not actually that much dismerit to that performance. And then last time out he went on and won. It wasn't a brilliant beginner's chase by any means at Fairyhouse, but he won it by 21 lengths to a horse called Milan Native, who subsequently ran at the weekend and only finished, I think, 2 or 3 lengths. No, it was more than 2 or 3 lengths. It might have been 4 or 5 lengths behind Spyglass Hill in a beginner's at Goran. So he's an alright horse. He's no world beater, obviously, but he beat him 21 lengths head and chest. So therefore, you know, he beat him as he should do. And I just think he has kind of this Black Hercules / York Hill vibe. You kind of feel he should be a 3-miler, but that being said, he kind of pulls relatively hard. I think a fast run 2.5 would be more to his cup of tea. I'd say he'll sit in the van, hopefully jump well. My only concern with him is his lack of chasing experience here. He's running 2 beginners chases in Ireland. He's got his own way out in front both times. it's just not particularly your ideal preparation for a race of this nature. I think the ability is there. I'm not sure whether the experience will be there, but I'll be prepared to take that chance. Mullins has a good record in this race, and it's not a race that screams to me like there's that many good horses in behind him. I think Fakir Dudery probably will run here. As I discussed on the day one preview, I do have my doubts that he always finds one too good in a really good race. Itchy Feet won a decent but not brilliant Scilly Isles. Haven't quite warmed to him yet. And my each way selection, and I know I'm going to open myself up to a lot of abuse here, I feel. But I think at the prices, and there is Betfair offering 16 to 1. I think at the prices, the best each way play in this race is Samcro. If you do hear me out, he won on Chasing debut in a Mickey Mouse race at Down Royal. Okay, fair enough. He then fell behind Fakir Dudery at 2 out in the Drinmore Novices Chase. He was travelling very well that day. Now, he travels very well all the time. From what he did at Limerick the next time, you're not sure what would have happened, but more than likely he actually wouldn't have gone past Fakir Dudery. Well, that form isn't bad still. He would have been banged there one way or the other. And then he was second to Faugheen over Christmas at Limerick. The reason I'm giving him, well, it's not a second chance, is it? It's probably an 8th chance for Samcro, is the ground at Limerick at Christmas. If you're from England, or you're not from, certainly if you're not from Ireland, you don't really realise how heavy the ground at Limerick is. Like, it is attritional going. And Faugheen's actually been shown in years gone by that kind of heavy going actually almost helps him in a lot of cases. And it wouldn't have helped Samcro. I can't think that 2.5 miles on really deep ground is really his cup of tea. I think 2.5 on better ground would help him out. And Gordon's done this before. Last year, I gave Mengley Khan a 3rd or 4th chance in this race. He'd gone off the radar completely last year in a few novice chases at Leopardstown, and Gordon was able to kind of revitalise him to run very well in this race and come 3rd in what was a really good JLT, now obviously called the Marsh. And I just think he could do it again with Samcro here. I just think 16 to 1's too big a price. No matter what you think about his finishing ability, he travels superbly in his races. He'll probably be there, bang there, turning in. You don't know what he's going to find, and perhaps the answer is nothing. But I just don't think it's the strongest race. I still think he has the makeup of being a good horse. If he could finish out a race, he'd be an excellent horse. And I'm just willing to take that chance on him at 16 to 1. I think 16 is just too big a price for a horse of his natural ability. The Ryanair Chase is a race that's going to cause a lot of different opinions, and I can see why. I think it's a tough race this year. I'm sticking with Min because I've been with him all year. I advised him at 12 to 1 back in September. He's now 7 to 2, so I got the price. Whether I've got a winner or not, I'm not so sure. For me, he's the class horse in the race. His efforts over 2 miles over the last couple of years, his efforts over 2.5 about Punchestown and Aintree, set him aside as being, I think, the class horse in the race. You look at his 2 John Durkan wins and his performance in the Melling Chase last year over 2.5. I think it's well worth having a go at this race. He's not going to finish in the first 3. If the first 3 in the Champion Chase in the betting all run to form, he won't finish in the first 3. So you might as well take your chance in a race like this. My issue with him isn't really his performances this year have been good in terms of he won the John Durkan, and I think his second to Chacun Pour Soi was an excellent performance. There was a very strong time. I know they finished a bit weary, but they went a breakneck gallop, and Min was able to lie up for the majority of that race. So he's certainly not going to be done in this race for any sort of tactical speed. If anything, it's a bit like Underso when he won the race in 2017. You're just not sure whether he's quite going to get home, Min. The only issue I have with him is his jumping this year hasn't looked good, which is bizarre because basically he's a very good jumper. And he's never really shown any jumping issues before, but he was hair raising at Punchestown in the John Dirk and made a few uncharacteristic mistakes even in the Dublin Chase, especially at the one going away from the stands. It's hard to see from the stands, but I looked back at the replay of it and he made an awful shape at it, and it just does concern me a bit. I don't know what's kind of gone on, whether there's something kind of niggling at him even. Usually when these good horses start making those sort of mistakes, something might be a bit amiss. But maybe it was just a few mistakes. I'm looking into it too much, and I shouldn't really be criticising a horse that I'm putting up. 7-2, I think, is a grand price. I think he's probably the right price at 7-2. In terms of his challengers, I find it a very tough race to really identify. I think A Plus Tard's got a bang chance. Obviously beat Chacun Pour Soi over Christmas. That form looks very good at this stage. And he won the Close Brothers last year at the Cheltenham Festival. I think a furlong shorter, but almost course and distance. So there's a lot going for him. My issue with him is the price. He's 5-2. Now, in my eyes, he's done nothing to deserve being 5-2. If he was 5-1, I'd almost be very tempted to back. But 5-2 is just far too short for a horse of what he's actually done. Remember, he's beaten a Chacun Pour Soi that blatantly needed the run, and previous to that he was second to Ballyosheen. Now, is Ballyosheen going to go anywhere close to the Champion Chase or a Ryanair Chase? No, he wouldn't. So it just leaves a little bit to be desired in my eyes. Frodon has a very good chance at 13-2. I've got mixed feelings about Frodon. He's good, but is he great? He won a subpar Ryanair last year in my eyes. And his form at the last day at Kempton is alright, but it's not brilliant. And I'd just be concerned that in a better race, one of these slightly better horses will catch him out. Riders on the Storm proved me wrong at the weekend. However, in terms of that, I thought he was a bit of a sloppy jumper. I'd still have a few reservations about his jumping, and I'd also have a reservation about the fact that a horse like Traffic Fluid was blatantly going to go by him, jumping the last. It was a tough race, an energy-sapping race, and it would be a phenomenal training performance if Nigel Twiston-Davies can get this horse back in time for Cheltenham, because horses were finishing out in their feet that day on Saturday, and it just maybe... I saw actually Mark Mackay, Long Run on YouTube. He's done a very good video this morning because he put up Riders on the Storm at a big price, and he put up a very honest video about whether kind of he left his Ryanair run out on the track at Ascot, and I'd find it hard to disagree with that, I must confess. That being said, if you haven't checked out Long Run, I would advise you to go do so. He's doing very similar videos to me, and a very knowledgeable man indeed. But as I said, I think I'll just stick with Min. I don't see much of an each way play in the race at this moment in time. Maybe I will closer to the time, but sometimes the Ryanair can cut up to 6-7 runners, so you mightn't even have an each way play in it. So it would be Min for me at the moment. I'm sitting on 12s. Which is a good price. 7-2 I think is a fair price at the moment, to be honest, if you want to be involved. The Stayers Hurdle over 3 miles. I think it's fairly safe to say that Paisley Park has this one. It's nothing in Cheltenham in safe keeping, but he's well worth the price he is going to be. Benny the Jew is looking more and more unlikely to run in either this or the Champion Hurdle. It looks like they'll just stick with the mares, which I can kind of see the reasoning why. I certainly can see the reasoning why they wouldn't particularly want to take on Paisley Park. He's shortened into 8-11 best price. He's 4-6 on a lot of boards. I don't think you'll get shorter than that. I think you'll get 8-11 on the day. You might even get a 4-5, 10-11 with some bookies trying to take him on. You know, it's a type of horse to throw into multiple bets. I don't know whether you guys do multiple bets or not. I do 1 or 2 maybe here and there. just to keep kind of your vested interests and stuff like that. He'd be the type of horse to put in a race in those types of bets, unless you had a very big wad of cash and you wanted to lump it all on the nose. As I say, he's the class horse in the race. He won it last year. I think the race was better last year than it's going to be this year. His form this year has been brilliant, beating Thistlecrack, who's a very good horse, and then beating Somerville Boy, kind of dossing around as well in the cleave. Like, he pricks his ears. Like, we don't actually know how good he is. Like, everyone is kind of saying that there's masses still to come from him. I don't know whether there is or not, but what he does at the moment is more than enough. So I can't see him being beat, really. Benny's probably the only horse that probably could give him a real good race, but I don't think she'll run. I do have a good I don't know whether it's a good each way bet or not, but I do have an each way alternative in this race in the form of Emma Tom for Warren Greatrex. I know a couple of you guys I think are on Emma Tom at slightly bigger prices. He's still around the 12-14 to 1 mark, having won the Rendlesham on the weekend at Haydock. Similar to Riders on the Storm, it's tricky to know. It's obviously quite close. It was heavy enough ground, but he did need another run. He had good form last year. You look at some of his novice hurdles. He beat Lisnagar Oscar by 5 lengths in a novice hurdle at Foss Lass. Lisnagar Oscar is obviously quite a good horse. He was then second to Champ in the Grade 1 at Aintree, where he didn't jump brilliantly and was still only 2.5, 3 lengths behind him. He then returned in the Rail Keel on New Year's Day, which is over 2.5. Now, he's pretty much shown himself up to be a real 3-mile horse at this stage. But he jumped hopelessly, like really, really badly. Because I was on him that day. I was thinking, God almighty, like, I've always been a big fan of him. And I thought he'd win that day and stake his claim for the Stayers Hurdle. God, he was useless. And he finished last to the 6. And you were there going, Christ almighty, what's gone on? But he won very well at Haydock on the weekend. More of a gruelling test of stamina over 3 miles. He's a strong stayer. The 3 miles seems to not put quite as much emphasis on his jumping, which is a good thing. And I think he should run well. 12-14 to 1 isn't that bad a price. Especially when you take out Benny the Jew. You know, everything's going to... certainly if she doesn't run, everything's going to contract in price. And I think he'll be one of those to contract. The final race I'll be covering in today's episode is the Mares Novices Hurdle, the Dawn Run Mares Novices Hurdle, which has been at the dispense of Willie Mullins since its inception. Plenty of good horses have won this. Limini, Let's Dance, Lorena, and Eglantine de Soy won it last year. Probably not the best, probably the 4th best of those 4 mares to win it. Manila Melody's the current favourite. Marie's Rock was favourite, but she's unfortunately been ruled out of Cheltenham. I think ruled out for the season. And obviously, if you cast your eyes back to October time, we lost Gypsy Island from the race, which was a big shame. Gypsy Island, a brilliant horse, I think. Still one to hopefully look out for in time. And also, it's more than likely not going to show up the Glancing Queen either. Which is a big disappointment. A mare I was really looking forward to seeing this year, but she's obviously had a few issues. One I put up for this race right at the start of the season was Dermot McLaughlin's mare, Santa Rosa, 25 to 1. She's now a general 20 to 1 shot. She's only run once over hurdles, 3rd to exit pole, which was an okay run. She kind of blew up turning in and then kind of rallied a bit near the end. I would have liked to have seen her again. I don't know whether... if she is going to run in the race, I don't know whether she will run in the race or not, and if she is, whether she's going to try and find another race in the next couple of weeks. I somewhat doubt it, to be honest. I think she'd have to go there just off the back of this 3rd, which is an obvious worry. Her bumper form last year was brilliant. She was 3rd in the Aintree Colson in the Geldings bumper behind McFabulous and the Banner King Rebel. And then, but previous to that, won the Grade 2 at the Leopardstown Dublin Racing Festival, beating horses like Big Bad and Beautiful, Batani and stuff like that. So not a bad level of form we're dealing with, but there is a doubt, unfortunately, that she might not run. The one I would be putting up in this race is a Willie Mullins horse, surprise, surprise, but I think in a race like this you do have to keep to what, you know, the vibes will tell you, and the vibes will tell you Mullins has got a brilliant record in this race, and it is Colreevy, who's generally available at 12 to 1 in a lot of places, although as short as 7 to 1 in Paddy Power. I think the price at 12s is too big. She was a Grade 1 bumper winner last year at the Punchestown Festival, beating Abacadabras. Santa Rosa was also in that race back in 5th. Her hurdling runs this year haven't been brilliant. She was second to Midnight Run, who looked a very good horse at the time, but hasn't quite delivered on that. I think there's something wrong with Midnight Run, though. She then won at Limerick over Christmas at 2 to 5, wasn't a brilliant race, and then second last time out to Manila Melody. Manila Melody is favourite, as I said before. I have just got this, I just have something in the back of my head that tells me that Mullins just will get the best out of his mares at Cheltenham. And I'm not sure I could take 3 to 1 about Manila Melody when there's 3 or 4 Mullins mares. Like realistically, Dolceta will run, Colreevy will run, your one Lamarquise will run. One of them will run really well. You know, it's just sod's law, to be honest. And I'm just pinning my hopes that Colreevy is that one. Perhaps Danny Mullins on board or David Mullins on board if he's back fit. Rider from the front, rider aggressively, kick her on. I think she's a horse that will stay longer than 2 miles in the future. And perhaps she can hold on and maybe win or maybe run into a place. I think 12 to 1, though, as I said, is just a little bit too big. A bit like Samcro earlier in the card. You're trying to find a bit of a value opinion, and that is the one I have come down on. So, I hope you guys did enjoy this preview of day 3 of the Cheltenham Festival of 2020. If you did enjoy the video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below to anybody new. And of course, as always, I do strongly encourage interaction in the comment section down below. I'll try to reply to everybody if you comment. Comment what you think of day 3. Do you think Paisley Park is an absolute certainty? Probably what I'd want to know is what your thoughts are on the Ryanair Chase, because I'm a bit at a loss about it. I can see the sides of 3 or 4 different horses, to be honest. I'm sticking with Min, as I have been with them all year. You can't desert these horses now, especially when you're on at bigger prices. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below about that and about the other day 3 races. Hopefully I'll be able to record the day 4 race, obviously the Gold Cup Day preview, in a couple of days' time and get that up to you guys as soon as possible. But until then, best of luck with any tipping you're putting up and happy punting. I will see you later on this week.